to Onion Skin Game Animation, and today I'm super excited to have Chris Goodall on the show. How are you?
Good, yeah, pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's really nice talking to you for the first time ever. So yeah, I guess we can dive in directly. I always ask, can you introduce yourself first so people get to know you a bit better?
Well, yeah, so first of all, yeah, my name's Chris Goodall. I'm an animator. Currently, I'm the principal animator at Playground Games. And just as a brief history, prior to that, I basically spent, 8 years of my career at Ninja Theory, which was really cool. And that was kind of like my first job in the industry. So yeah, that's kind of my career as a very high level overview.
Okay, I like it. It's super short. So you've been, as you said, 8 years at Ninja Theory, and now I think it's been 2 years at Playground, right?
Yeah, I think I just crossed my 10 years, maybe 10 years. Wait, let me see. Yeah, I started in 2000 no, I just crossed 11 years actually in the industry.
Oh wow, congrats.
Yeah, I started in September 2009, I think, at Ninja Theory as an animation intern. And yeah, so I've just crossed it's 11 years? Yeah, math. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's already huge.
Yeah, I didn't even realize when I crossed the 10-year mark, I was like, really? Already? Yeah, it's just flying by. It only feels like last year since I moved here to start at Playground, but yeah, it's just flown by. I can't believe it. 11 years. I had no idea that I would make it this far.
That's a pretty good sign if you think it was like yesterday. It went fast, so I guess you had fun.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, of course. I think that's part of it. If I just sit and think about everything, I'm like, okay, no, it feels like 10 years. But when you kind of cross that point where you've been working, I think I've been working professionally longer than all the time I've been studying. It's like a really cool milestone where it's weird. I've spent more time making games now than all of my studying to learn how to do it, and all those things combined. It's really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So as you said, already 11 years in the business, and so I've looked at your resume on LinkedIn, and it seems like you've done a bunch of stuff in animation. So I wrote down keyframe, mocap, bipeds, creatures, integration stuff in engine, also cinematics, gameplay, also various styles like DMC that I think you can be called hyper realistic. Cartoon animation with Disney Infinity, something I guess more realistic with Hellblade. So it seems like you are a very versatile animator. So do you think it's important for a game animator to be versatile, to touch a bit everything?
I guess so. I think I know you sent this question a while ago, and I thought about it a little bit, but I think it comes down to what you want to do as an animator. So for me, I think ever since when I started at Ninja Theory, I really loved even before then, I really loved the hyper real style of things, action sequences, and it's very grounded but still quite stylish. I've always loved that kind of stuff, and I was less so into the more stylized things that are a little bit more cartoony. And so when we had the project of doing Disney Infinity, for me, I kind of just saw it as a challenge. It was kind of like a palette cleanser, if that makes sense. I'm like, okay, we've got this new project. The style is a little bit more Disney, I would say, and let's just see if I can adapt to that. Can I take what I've learned on the other games and apply that, and then just try to push it in all the right areas? If that makes sense. I think having that more solid kind of grounding in kind of the other style of animation kind of really helped a lot, actually. It just meant that whatever I started with, felt quite solid and grounded, but then I was just forcing myself to try and push it. And I think I probably didn't end up pushing it very far in the end, but like I pushed it a little bit further. So, I mean, for me, I knew that like I felt like Disney Infinity was like going to be a temporary thing, so I think it was cool to just try that, you know, for a while, and then ultimately I would move on to, I moved on to Hellblade from there. So that was like an opposite again from Disney Infinity to Hellblade. So I mean, if it's something that you want to explore, and it's a good chance to kind of just try something new, and I think that part's really cool. But whether you need to be able to do that, I guess it all comes down to like necessity, right? If you want to stay at a studio and they suddenly switch styles from one to another, are you going to enjoy that? And is that something that you want to work on? If that's the case, then I guess, yeah, it's important that you can do those things. At least knowing the difference between the two is going to help you a lot. I know some people, if such a jump was made at certain studios, it might not be in line with what they want to do anymore, and they might decide that actually they don't want to do that, and they go and find another project or something like this. So I guess overall it helps, but I would say that it really comes down to what the animator wants to do.
Yeah, well, you want to be.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And yeah. So okay, so it's more about who you are, really, who you want to be as an animator. But at the same time, I've noticed something for a game animator that is so important in being in some way versatile. He's having both this artistic and technical vision of things. So, you know, artistic part, which is, let's say, Maya, you animate your stuff in the DCC, and then the other side, you're gonna, in some studios at least, implement your stuff in engine. So, which is really not something artistic, which is more technical. So, do you think the two, artistic and technical, complement each other?
Oh, absolutely. I think for those people that understand the value of it, they would say definitely. And I think for the people that don't understand the value, I think they really underestimate how valuable those things are. So in terms of how they complement one another, you need to kind of think about the end goal. So I think your end goal, at least for me as an animator, has always been like what you get in the engine, like what you're seeing at the end, like what you're playing in game is like that's the final product. And if there are any barriers between you animating something in Maya and not being able to achieve that end result, then you're kind of missing out. You know, like you can't really reach. Like, I know for me, it doesn't feel like I'm doing my job. If that makes sense. Like if I can't manipulate everything and see exactly as I want on screen, then I feel like I've left something out. So the technical side, I guess when you say technical, you kind of define what we mean by technical, but at least being able to add things to the engine and understand how it works, why it works. I think even understanding like how and why it's going to work before you even start animating something will help you achieve a better result in the end. So yeah, if you know like how animation is going to be layered together, what poses you're going to need, like what blend spaces you're going to need if you're using Unreal, like, you know, what cycles, like what speeds are going to happen, like what inputs are going to drive these things, like you can already start planning out a system in Maya, and then know that in Maya it might not look like much, but you know that when you've assembled that in the engine, it's going to come together and it's going to look awesome. So like having that technical ability in that case is super essential, because it's allowing you to create that end result. And then, you know, you're not scared to try things out, like especially with like engines like Unreal, you can get crazy with blueprints, and you can just, you know, do like whatever you want. So it's really great. You can really start playing around with that stuff. So I always encourage people to, like, wherever possible, like get involved in the technical side. I've always kind of been receptive to it. I think it was very difficult initially. Like it's quite a lot to take in. It's more of like a way of thinking, like a logical way of approaching things, which doesn't really come straight away. It's like a different way of looking at things. That makes sense. Where it's not all about the art. You're like, oh, like, yeah, you approach things differently. But I also find it super satisfying at the same time when something comes together and it works. Where it's like, it's not subjective. Like if you look at an animation, whether it's good or bad, like it's subjective. But then if you've put something together and it works, like through code or whatever, like it works, it's like, great, that works. It's not subjective. It's like you've made a thing and it totally works. I'm sure like any of my programmer or engineer friends would disagree with whether it's good or bad, whether it's good blueprint or good code or bad code or whatever. So yeah, I guess they definitely complement one another. And I think in games especially, it's essential. I guess it comes down to team sizes as well. I mean, if you're on smaller projects, then being more involved, you're going to inevitably be exposed to more of that side. Whereas like I've never really worked in a studio where it's you have people just creating animations and kind of just submitting them into the void, kind of like tossing them over the wall, and then in 6 months time you see the animation that you did in Engine and you're like, oh, that doesn't really look that great, but cool. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, like not having that control seems like totally like alien. It's super weird. Yeah, so I guess there's that side of it. The other side of it is debugging work. So debugging was something which took a long time to figure out. So it's an essential part of game development, right? If you need to know if you've broken the build.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to say, hey, Chris, you submitted a change, you broke the build. And then if I don't know, first of all, how I've done that, what I've done to break it, well, to go back on that, I should know that what I've submitted wasn't going to break the build in the first place. So this is like a debugging thing where you can basically boil down, all right, is this an animation problem, or is it an engineering problem, or is it a design problem, or something like this? So being familiar with like the more technical side of how things are working is super essential in order to debug things, like to know if you're causing bigger issues in the game. I think that's something that people overlook, and I think it's the hardest thing for people to get their head around. And you want to be able to do this like self-sufficiently. You want to be able to debug and get to a point where you've checked every box, and then you go and ask for help. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be the person where the first thing pops up and you go straight to your lead and go, hey, there's this error, and then they're going to go, oh, have you checked this? And then you're going to say no, and then you go back and check it, and then you go, all right, there's another issue, and then they go, oh, have you checked this? And then you go, no, and then you go back and you know what I mean? Like, you need to get to a point where there's like a checklist of things that you have to check off and know, like, without a shadow of a doubt, I need help now because I can't figure out what's wrong. And so that technical ability of knowing how things are put together and how things are working are, like, I think super essential in game development.
Yeah, I really strongly agree with you. That's funny enough. That's recently something a programmer at the job told me, like, just out of, by any chance, you have a checklist when you submit animations? Like, I do not have a proper checklist, but I probably should, because a programmer says it. So, yeah, I like how you. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, yeah. Usually, I was just thinking about the checklist, and but most of the time, it's a root issue. Like, it's either like a root issue or a markup issue or something like this, right? You've put the markup in something in the wrong place. You've forgotten to animate the root, or you've done something crazy with the root which has caused something else to break, and then it's a combination of things which kind of like, it's a domino effect. Yeah, there's like a hierarchy of most important things you need to have correct, and then diminishing from there.
Yeah. So you said some people overlook the technical aspect of being a game animator. So I want to go a bit deeper into that and ask you if you could describe your say your journey into the technical aspect of game animation. You said it was hard at first, but it eventually become rewarding. So could you describe a bit about that?
So kind of looking back, I remember like my first 3 to 6 months in the industry being like a couple of, first of all, one of those times when you realize that you don't know anything, especially coming from university. And it was just, I'd never really experienced any of that side, like of anything to do with real game development before. And I'd like, all right, you animate some characters in Maya and then something happens and then it's an engine. So having to learn all that. So the first hurdle was learning like morphine. So like a state flow system, like, you know, character, like a state flow animation system. Learning about, okay, you have a state machine and you have like state within that, and then you've got these conditions to go between one and the other, and then within those conditions you need to set like, can you move? Yes. Okay, then you can transition to here, and like figuring out that whole logic, and then all the different types of variables and things that you need to do, and how like trying to make it watertight so that, you know, like it's like trial and error. You would try something out and then something wouldn't trigger, and then you're like, oh wait, maybe I've messed up a variable here, or then you'd go and play it and then actually something crazy would happen and you realize that actually you've forgotten to add another condition here or here, and like that whole side, like that like logical thing of just basic variables was first of all like the big hurdle of like, okay, this is how you connect animations together. And then so that was like just getting all that into my brain was really hard. And then also on top of that, so it's learning new programs at the same time. It was like learning how to use Morphine, and then you're learning how to use the engine and how those things all work together. And that's like another thing that you have to take into account. And I guess there was the whole like workflow pipeline, those kind of things. But like when I say technical, like that's kind of like the first thing that it was just difficult because I'd never done it before. And it required like a lot of trial and error to get to where I wanted to be.
Would you say in some way it was like, I mean, it was different, but I don't have this word in English, but the way it was difficult, would you say was like comparable to when you first started using Maya, like learning Maya at school? Like, you know, I mean, personally, I remember seeing all those buttons everywhere and like, what the fuck is it?
yeah, same.
Okay.
I got rid of all of those buttons.
Yeah, that's
yeah, it's true. Like you learn. I guess with Maya, like there's like the 20 to 30 buttons that you press every day, and the rest of it, you don't learn all of Maya, right? You learn like a little bit. The rest of it you don't really care about. And I think it's probably the same in the game engine. You learn the parts that you care about that are to do with animation, and then everything else you don't really know that much about. And I think over time you start learning more and more how those things are interconnected. And again, that's one of those things that helps with the debugging I was talking about earlier. So yeah, I think it's a combination of just learning new software and just learning like how just state flow logic works. And then also on top of that, I guess when you talk about Unreal 4, it's like creating variables and creating your own logic and knowing where those inputs come from and how you need to manipulate them in order to get the variable and values and things that you want. Like that is like another hurdle, which is there's the baseline hurdle of like, if someone gives you a variable which says, am I moving? Like, is moving? And you're like, all right, true, I can move. False, you stop moving. Great. But when you have to figure out where is moving comes from, and then it's like these vectors, we have to measure these vectors and see what happens, like, et cetera, and figure out that the speeds or the stick input or like all these different things, like oh, it's more complicated than a simple bool. Yeah. And like that's like the next level of like when you figure out where those things come from and you have to create them from scratch, at least with like I said, like in Unreal. And being able to, what's great about that as well is like once you learn that stuff, being able to communicate that to, like, you can start speaking, I guess, like programmer or engineer. You can say, hey, I need this variable that does this and this and this and this. And I'm just thinking of another advantage of the technical side. It helps you work with other departments a lot better. Like you can, I don't know where I heard this, but everyone's like, every department has their own language. So animators speak Animator, you know, programmers and engineers speak, and like when they communicate, initially they don't really have the same language, but when you can start speaking each other's language, it helps a lot. So if you know how it's going to work from that side, at least to some degree, you can better and more effectively communicate what your needs are and what your expected results are. So yeah, that's another, I kind of segued off.
No, that's I think it's the same thing with like technical animation. So I'm speaking more about the rigging part of things. So you know, you can have some notions in rigging, even if you can't rig a complex character, you'll be able to speak to the technical animator, the rigger, and that way, you know, because video game production is all about communication. So if you have that with programmers or other, I don't know, audio department, that's always a plus for sure.
I guess that goes, yeah. So when we're talking about animation, and then like from animation to the technical side and like game engine implementation, you can go backwards from animation as well to the other departments that are prior to you. So if you're not working with technical animators, so whoever's building the rigs, knowing what to expect and how things work from that side is, I guess, is like another level of technical. Having some understanding there is going to help you communicate when there are issues and what your needs are in order to execute whatever it is you need to do. And then even going back from there, you should be communicating with character design or character art, because maybe like the mesh that they've made is missing. I mean, but this is getting into the whole pipeline thing, but I guess the technical animator would also do that same thing where they'd be like, hey, we need more density on the geometry around these areas so that it can deform properly, so that animation are going to be happy. And it's like, and we should all be part of that conversation. Or maybe it's just like this character shape just doesn't work when you move it, like the silhouette, like it's difficult to get a good silhouette, or it's just not communicating very well, and like, you know, like, and then being able to figure out what the problems are with, like, even at the stage where you're building the character, like, oh, I don't think that's going to work, or all this stuff, like all this, you've got these straps and things everywhere all around the shoulders, and you're like, this is going to be a nightmare to stop all the clipping and things like this. Or, you know, there's tons of, everyone's got dresses and skirts and like floaty bits of garments, and you're like, wait, this is probably going to be an issue. And you know, like, but so like communicating backwards, like it's not just the technical understanding, it's also like how, like knowing what problems are going to come up, and like being able to work with other departments as well is super beneficial. So I guess that's kind of like the other side of this discussion. Yeah, I think people underestimate that as well. Like, I guess ultimately what we're talking about is like animation doesn't exist in a bubble. It's not isolated, especially in a production environment. It's a team effort, and everything has to come together into the right place in order to make the thing awesome. And no one works in isolation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And now I'm curious. So we've talked about your journey into the technical aspect. It's definitely a learning curve. But so I'm curious, before we talk about your role as principal animator at Playground, I want to transition that way with asking you, what's then your artistic journey like? Say, really focused on the animation itself. How has it been so far?
You mean just like focusing on?
Yeah, I mean like developing your pure animation skills. You know, like I don't know, tackling more complex animations, tackling creatures, stuff like that. You know.
I don't know. Like maybe it's hard to explain. I think at some point my focus has shifted, and I think it's becoming more like senior and getting more experienced. My focus shifted. Initially, when I started out, I was focusing on like oh, the animation needs to be smooth. I need to have good arcs. I need to have like a good timing. And I was thinking very like an animator does. I need to have these things, and this is what makes an animation cool. And now my focus is more on just how it feels, and it's not really more complicated than that. And I'm trying to do something that feels like that feels. I mean, from a gameplay point. I mean, again, I can't. It's hard to look at it not in the lens of gameplay. So I want something that feels good, but also is quite like authentic and fresh. I think going for like authenticity and kind of freshness is something I'm trying to pursue, and it's difficult. I think I find it's very difficult to get there, and yeah, for me now it's more about just how an animation feels. Like I'm not really thinking about, oh, I'm gonna add some overlap here on the fingers, or I'm gonna do the arc's gonna be like this or whatever. I just have this feeling of I want it to feel like, I don't know, like powerful, or like you know what I mean. Like you get a feeling of something that's light and wispy, like a leaf blowing in the wind. I want it to feel like that, and that becomes my goal. And I'm just making, I guess, subconsciously just making choices to try and reach that feeling as close as possible. And like that's why it feels like I tend to look at things more from a high level now than really detail oriented. And I mean, the detail does come like later on, like, you know, but first of all, it's pursuing that, which I may have overlooked previously when I was just thinking more on being like good animation. You know, it's got all the good things, but it's still lacking. It's still lacking that feeling. Yeah, like I don't know. Is this kind of like going hitting the kind of answering the question that you're...
Yeah, totally. My question, if I could say it, otherwise it would have been, what's your high level vision of your animation? Like, as you said, not details, but like, what's the purpose of your animation? What are you seeking with your animation? So that's really interesting.
It's ultimately just, I mean, from a professional point of view, just to serve the game and to make something that's memorable and works with everything in context. It's like, it's, again, like, that's the weird thing. I'm not really thinking about it anymore just from purely an animation point of view. Like, I mean, I want the animation to look, I mean, first of all, I want animation to look great, and I want to be like, oh wow, it's so cool, and you know, but at the same time, it's not really the main drive. Like, it just has to fit with everything else. And I think I'm more and more considering that side of it than just, again, it's like the animation in a bubble. And even thinking about animation in a bubble is difficult to think about when you're already so used to considering all the other things. So yeah, this is kind of like where I am now, I think, in terms of when I'm thinking about it. Feeling first, because if I feel it and hopefully the audience or the player feels the same thing, then I've kind of achieved what we set out to do.
Yeah, that's super interesting, and I guess it ties into, so you're a principal animator at Playground. I'll let you, I guess, describe what it means to be a principal animator, and I guess especially at Playground, because it must be different for every studio. But so looking at all this experience you have, 11 years in the business, the technical aspect of it, the artistic aspect of it you just talked about, I was wondering, what pushed you into this leading position of being a principal animator at the studio you are currently working at? Was this something you wanted, or someone went to you and say, hey, it happens that we need a principal animator? I don't know.
Yeah, like, let me think. So there are a few ways to answer this, and I think I've answered this. I think I've answered this question before about like what it means. Like, first of all, what does the role mean? So the role is not one. I don't know if it's necessarily common in every studio. Like, some studios have them, some don't, and some studios I think titles mean different things in different studios, first of all. So it just so turns out that like I think at least where I am now, and I think some other studios, so usually in a career progression, like you'll go like junior, mid, senior, and there's probably a few tiers in between there, or like however you want to call it. Excuse me. And then so once you become senior, I guess you're starting to get more like management experience. Like, you know, you're starting to be responsible for like a junior animator or something and help like progression of other people. And then once you go from there, like I feel that career path kind of splits into two. So I guess speaking from how it is for me currently, like a lead is more managerial. So it's going to be more about like scheduling the project, making sure like, you know, like everything's covered, making sure like people are being assigned tasks and line management duties and things like this. Like it's skewed like towards that side, which means that because the focus is on that, there's probably less time to actually animate and less hands-on time. Whereas for me, it's the opposite. So like it's more about like trying to set vision and trying to create like animation that's uses like a target footage, or like I'm trying to set the bar, or help create like what the style is or what the quality bar is going to be, and like also help with mentoring other team members and making sure that we can kind of get there. So it's more about dealing with the how, like are we going to do this thing, how are we going to do it, and what's it going to look like, and like that's kind of my focus. So it's more kind of art driven, I guess, than like leadership driven.
Yeah.
I juggled those for a little bit. I think that's weird because I've had some crossover. I had some crossover on Hellblade because of the way the team was structured, and initially when I joined Playground, because you know I was the first animator on the project, so like you know I kind of had to juggle a bit of those two responsibilities. So I don't know, my strength and what I enjoy doing most is I just enjoy being hands-on and animating, and then trying to kind of push myself and make cool stuff. I just want to make cool stuff, basically. And if I'm not animating and putting my efforts towards that, then I feel like I'm not working to my best.
Okay.
My strength. I'm not working to my strength on a project, right? If I'm not doing that and I'm doing other things, so I enjoy that side way more. So like that's the direction I wanted to go in. And you know, I had this discussion before, and like the principal role seems much more the thing that suited what I wanted in terms of my career. And I guess I guess that kind of like covers it. Like it's I just wanted to do animation and like make it look cool, and then make the game look cool and do stuff like that, and help mentoring, and like that whole side of it for me is just way more rewarding than like scheduling and you know like all this other stuff. Like I mean, I do like organization to a point, but you know, not at the expense of doing the thing that I love, right?
Yeah.
So it's the perfect. I know some people are the other way around, and that's cool.
Yeah. That depends on everyone.
Yeah. No way is better than the other. It's just for me, that was my preference. And so yeah, like that's the way it is. I know in some studios they have directors that like the role that I'm covering might be covered by a director who's maybe hands-on or not hands-on, or like there's it's a weird mishmash. Every studio has a different setup, and it's really interesting to see how it works for everybody else as well.
Yeah. I'm very curious how it works, especially for you. So without talking, of course, about the project, but how, I mean, as a principal animator, how do you ensure like the animation quality remains consistent through the project? Because you know, like a game, it takes so many years to develop. and you got to be there at the start. As you said, you were the first animator to create the first animations, and then some other animators came into the team. And then how do you deal with each animator's unique sensibility about animation, so that it all comes together in one thing?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I don't know. You should ask me in a few years if I've been successful or not, or if we've been successful. I guess this is kind of like bleeding over into like helping and mentoring team members to try and work through, like try and work to their strengths and work through any weaknesses they have, and being able to understand like where they are and the things they can do and where they need to be pushed slightly, or I don't know. It's
a tough question.
It's a tough question. It's a difficult thing to answer. Like it just kind of crosses over. Okay, so I guess there's two. I'm kind of maybe overcomplicating this. There's two ways to think about it. The first one is the high level goal of the game. It's like, if you stand back and look at the game, is it consistent? So consistency is the main focus. Like, is it consistent in the right places? So if you look at like what the big wins are and where we can make the most difference, like, are we hitting that at least? Like that would be my focus, and not so much on like details of like obsessing over the smaller things that don't really contribute to that. It's, it's not a priority. It's probably not a priority, right? And then it's just making sure, I guess, as a team, everybody's on board with what's required and how to get there, and making sure that we're all pushing towards the same vision and the same goal, right? And I guess it's up to me to try and help steer the ship a little bit if it feels like it's going off course, and not to micromanage and be like every single frame someone puts down, like, oh no, you could have changed that, oh no, you could have changed that. That's not helping anybody. It's like, let's look at the big picture and like, how are we getting there? Like, sure, we can get into going frame by frame through some stuff at some point, but it's not really about that. It's not about gatekeeping on every frame that goes into the game to make sure it's perfect to my vision. It's not my vision, it's everyone's vision, and I'm kind of just trying to set something that helps everybody like understand. Trying to set something that everyone can agree on, that this is the direction we should go in, I think. And then trying to find ways of communicating how to get there to other team members. So maybe I have a set of principles or rules, or a set of like guidelines.
Yeah.
Helping create a guide in order to get there. I think it's going to be the way to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It seems like a tough job on it, honestly. But very interesting one.
It is. It's not just about making cool stuff.
Yeah.
And like, it's really a tough one. I mean, it's something that I'm going through like right now. It's like that's my role, and every day I'm trying to figure this question out myself in order to hopefully get to something which is cool and successful and everyone's happy with. Yeah,
I really like how every person I interviewed, that like no matter the position they're at, they're all like, yeah, this is the first time I'm doing it, so I'm learning as I'm doing it, trying to figure out stuff. That's really interesting.
It's imperfect. I don't know if anybody really has this stuff nailed. It's just it's an imperfect process, and more and more I understand that, and that's okay. It's okay to kind of like feel your way and find your way through these. I think everybody, like most people, I guess you'll ask, would just feel like they're barely just getting through it, like it's just a sequence of happy accidents to getting to the end result.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
I'm sure they're severely downplaying their contribution, but that's kind of what it feels like sometimes.
Awesome. So now it's the time for the break questions. Those are really light-hearted, funny questions, hopefully. So, wait, I got something for you. So it's always the same question I ask everyone, but where's the camera? So which one's your favorite? So Xbox controller, or so it's the Xbox One controller. We don't have the new one yet in the M's, but or the DualShock 4. I guess you answer by showing yours.
This one.
Oh, no.
No way! Oh, that's cool. It's the best one in blue.
Yeah, well, this one I actually got for free from GDC.
From GDC, really?
Yeah, yeah. There was a bunch of like things you had to do on the job on the expedition floor, and then I completed it and I got this. It's actually pretty cool.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
You're talking about in terms of how the controller feels.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I
it's
think
pretty
I
personal.
prefer this one.
Okay.
Out of the two, between this one and that one, I feel this one. What's interesting is that the one I use most is probably this one,
Oh, the old.
the OG. Yeah.
Oh wow.
I like that. I think for my hands at least, like this one just fits. It's just nicer.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that because I work at an Xbox studio.
Yeah, for sure.
I have no what's it? I'm not romantic about any of the companies. Like if it works for me, it works for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you? Are you in the Xbox control, or do you prefer the PlayStation one?
Honestly, I was raised on PlayStation, so I do prefer the at least the PlayStation 4 controller because I feel it's smaller. That being said, I had my hands on the new one, which is 99% the same, but it looks like it's been a little bit smaller and fits better in my hands. And there's also additional grip here, so. But honestly, it's just a controller at the end of the day.
So you were picking the PS4 one out of nostalgia.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because I've never owned any Xbox, even though I work in an Xbox studio. I just have PlayStations.
Shh, don't say that.
We'll see if I can get to the job Monday morning.
We'll see.
No, but yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just like it's not even a preference. It's just a habit. So
Yeah, it's like whatever's like. Obviously, if I'm playing like, I play my PS4 quite a bit, so yeah. I mean, that's the controller I'm using for that, and then I guess if I'm at my PC, I'm using these.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's whatever. If I'm playing a fighting game, I'm probably using my arcade stick.
oh, you have one, so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Got,
awesome.
like I got one a while ago. It was like a cross. It's maybe like 5 years, 6 years old. I don't know. It's pretty old now. But yeah, like
Okay.
we got into a big phase of playing like fighting games at Ninja Theory, and like we all got
Right.
arcade sticks and stuff, and like I got so used to playing on that I find it really difficult to play on the controller. Although it's been a while since I've played fighting games, but yeah, whatever tool is right for the job.
Yeah, for sure. I have a second stupid question that it's this one I just did it for you. So you work at Playground. So what? I'm just curious. What's your favorite character animation in Forza Horizon 4?
I'm gonna say the sheep.
Yeah. I hoped you were saying that. Cool.
The sheep that you can never run over.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I would say it's hard to pick other than that. I think the Animator West did a great job on everything else there. But yeah, sheep. The sheep have got my heart.
Awesome. That was a tricky question because it's of course a racing game, but you nailed it. Perfect.
Yeah. Pass the test.
Exactly. Awesome. So now back to I guess more serious stuff. So we spoke about your animator artistic technical career, also how you were in leading position of being a principal animator at Playground. And so, also another thing about you is that you taught. Are you still teaching iAnimate? I'm not sure if you're still teaching, but I know you taught at least there. Okay, so you taught at iAnimate, and you also have now your own program. Yeah, what does teaching bring you? Why did you go there? I mean,
immense joy. No, it does. Okay, so this one is this one, I guess I can split into a few parts. So I can't remember who said this or whether, and I'm probably gonna ruin the quote, but it's like when one teaches, two people learn. So it's like, I think the aspect that I enjoy of teaching, I mean, of course, helping and watching other people like progress is great, but it also helps me solidify my understanding of what it is that I know. Something about trying to distill concepts down in a way that other people can understand, and actually see that information cross over to somebody else, and they manage to completely understand, and it works. It's like, that's really satisfying to me. Like, I really like that, and it really helps. It really gets me to think about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and if there's a better way of doing it, and just kind of reevaluate like why I do things, which I think is very healthy. Is very healthy for me. It kind of forces me to be to just not be stuck in a certain way of doing things, you know. So I know it's very easy sometimes to just not change something because it doesn't, because it works, and some people like work the same way for like 15 years, but actually you could have, there may have been another way which saved you a bit of time or was slightly more efficient and things like this. So I guess, yeah, I'm always questioning my workflow, and to do that and to understand how and why I'm doing things, and then being able to communicate that. So that, first of all, like that, like I've always had an interest in that, and like that started out like I guess it started out with, again, just like in the first studio I was at, and like the environment there within the animation team was one of everybody helping one another, and it set such a really good example, and like everyone was just open to learning, and we all got better because of that mindset. Like nobody was withholding information, everyone was trying to make everyone's life better.
Yeah.
And like, so I guess it kind of planted the seed there. And then I always wanted to share that experience with other people, because it was so good for me that I always wanted to like try and like not give it back, but be like just be that, like, to me that was really important. And like, so so kind of like teaching and helping initially, and then teaching was something that I gravitated towards. And then with iAnimate, it was a good challenge. So I kind of wanted to do it because like I started it just after I got my principal role. So just after I started at Playground, I got my iAnimate. I started iAnimate, and the way I looked at it is that I'm going to be in a position where I'm going to manage, well, initially, manage and be like, it allowed me to kind of play out what my role was going to be at the studio. So I got a chance to kind of get ahead and raise my skills in giving feedback and figuring out what the students need and how to help them get there and understand what they're trying to do. And like, it was really like a fast track in terms of like training myself in that area. And so like, because I didn't have a team at the time, like I'm like, I can't practice this at the studio with the rest of the team. So I'm like, well, there's nothing that's there's no reason why I can't just learn, like just teach outside and then just brush up my skills and kind of like sharpen the knife, if that makes sense. So that's kind of why I did it. I mean, obviously I enjoy teaching and my love for helping and stuff. And then the other side of it as well, this is going to make me better, like make me better in my role. So that's another benefit of doing it. So that's kind of like that's why I chose to do it. And like from there, it's kind of why I continue to do it, just in a different capacity. I think, again, it's like trying to teach things my way, or the things that I found that really help like work for me, and like teach different things, I guess, is kind of why, again, I have my own, I guess, my own teaching thing going on at the moment. Like I find that really rewarding, like doing lots of different areas. So it's those two things.
Okay. Would you say it's then essential for the growth of an animator, so to be either as you a teacher, or being an apprentice, or I'd say having a mentor? Because we hear that a lot in animation, having a mentor, learning with a mentor. So do you think it's really essential, or not, in the growth of an animator's career?
It was essential for me. Like, I think I really kind of look back at the earlier days of my career. I sound like I've been in the industry for like 25 years. It's not true. But like I said, that the environment that I learned in had such an impact on me that I can't say otherwise, that it was nothing but beneficial. And to not have had that at the time, I wouldn't be in the position I am now, or I wouldn't have progressed as quickly or whatever. Like I still feel like I would have got there through perseverance, but I was just in a unique position at that time, and that really, like, it's just so essential. I think what it is that you teaching somebody to see is really difficult. Like, I guess you can go through tutorials and things on your own, and like you can study, but if you can't see the issues with your animation, and if you have someone sit, not only have, so the thing that was great is not only have somebody kind of sit next to you and go, okay, here are a few issues, but then have them solve it in front of you and show you like the difference between the two. That for me was just like, it's mind blowing. I was like, wow, and I got it. And like I always remembered that those moments, like those, every time that happened to me, it was like my brain would remember that, and it's like next time I did the animation, I wouldn't have that same issue. And those collection of that collection of not only someone telling me, hey, the weight is wrong here, it's like the weight is a bit off here, but you know what, I'll show you how you actually make it look, how we actually fix that. And like that was amazing. Like, and it's that one-on-one kind of like feedback that is just so essential, that like I just can't really think of another way that you would get that unless you're just
gifted.
I don't know if people are gifted, or whether you've just got really good observational skills, or like it's observation ultimately. Like with animation, like if you can't see what's wrong, you can't see what's wrong, and other people can see it, but you just can't see it. It's like, it's so weird until they point it out to you, and then they show you, like, oh, of course, like that was, what was I thinking? It's the same, like if when you animate and you spend too long on a shot or a piece of animation, and then you just become totally blind to it.
Yeah.
And then you revisit like 2 weeks later, and you're like, oh, this looks terrible. And what was I thinking? Like that, it's like that, but sometimes never being able to see it unless you've got someone who can really see it for you. So yeah, I would say it helped me in my early career, and like, I mean, it's less so now, but I still find it really valuable whenever those moments happen. So yeah, I would say that it's essential to the growth of anybody in any discipline, not just animation. I guess you could apply it to like art, any discipline. I think it's the same.
And that's really cool, because you went from being the apprentice to now being the mentor. So it's like you're still learning, but the other, what it's like to be the other part of the thing, you know. So
Yeah, I find it really like I'm always like that's the thing, like I'm always learning. Like even like I said before, when one teaches to learn, like it's still the case. Like when I'm teaching, I'm still finding out little bits here and there of how to, like, oh yeah, I didn't really think about it like that, or like, oh, this is a better way of communicating this, or like, you know, it's really helping me, and I do feel like I'm still learning, like pretty much on a daily basis, which is great. Like you really need that sometimes. There's no I guess this is the kind of thing about that. This is when we were talking about experience, like, oh, you have 11 years experience, and like, to me it just doesn't feel like that. Like I don't imagine there's ever a point where I'm like, all right, cool, I don't need to learn anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I've reached the top. There's no top. It's just, you're just constantly like chipping away at like improving. And I like that. If I'm not learning or improving in a certain area, then to me I just feel like I'm stagnating.
Yeah.
It's really, yeah, it kind of really gets to me a little bit. But I think my nature is to just try and keep improving a little bit. So yeah, it's cool.
okay, yeah, awesome. And so it goes, I guess, in consequence of all that. You're also a streamer. Maybe you stream video games. I don't know about that, but I sure know you stream.
I did once.
Oh yeah, you did once.
Just once, yeah.
Okay. So you're streaming yourself animating live, and yeah, I guess I want to ask you, how did this idea popped, and what was that a consequence of you know, like, maybe is it teaching in another way, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, like I think the other part of that question was, I don't know if you're a millennial, and I grew up and I am.
You are? Okay.
Yeah.
Not even sure what's the definition.
I'm inside. I think I'm in the bracket.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born in 1986, so it's
okay.
It's quite a wide bracket though.
Yeah.
Unless there are some other definitions, but yeah. So with the Twitch thing, so I started that for a couple of reasons. So I kind of go through. So first of all was like, I wanted to just do something in my spare time, like just learn. Like, I mean, just work on things and kind of do a little bit of animation, and kind of streaming it and having people watch. First of all was like accountability. So if I say I'm going to stream every Tuesday or Monday, like every week, and people are going to expect that I'm going to be there doing some animation, it's like I feel like I'm letting people down if I'm not doing it, and that's kind of like an additional motivation. Having thought more about it, that can also probably be quite unhealthy, because I might feel like I'm animating when I don't want to animate, and it's not fun anymore, but I'm doing it because other people expect me to do it. I'm like, it's a vicious circle of, I mean, that hasn't been the case. So first of all was kind of accountability, and second of all is that I just kind of wanted to show some transparency, and I kind of just wanted to make myself feel uncomfortable. And again, I just felt like, not that there's misinformation, but I hear more like, I kind of just wanted to put myself out there and show that the process is imperfect.
Okay.
And the point of it was basically to A, do some personal work, and B, kind of just show exactly how I'm doing it, and just to kind of show people that it's not perfect, and I'm going to make mistakes. And just because you think, oh, this person has this many years of experience, like blah, 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 like, you know, worked on these games, that I think sometimes there's this misconception that like artists and stuff are just perfect. And because I think all you ever see, especially on social media, all you see is like the finished product.
Yeah.
You see the animation that someone spent like 50 hours on, and it's like, oh, they got their first try, or, you know, the character art that, you know, like, it's amazing, and then like you think, you know, it's kind of like Instagram, right? It's this kind of thing. I think I got a little bit like it was a weird like kind of two-sided thing. I kind of got a little bit tired of seeing that, and a little bit tired of I guess students and people looking for like a secret sauce. Like I feel there's very much this culture of someone, oh, can you give me a tip? Like one tip is going to change everything. Or like there's if you get the right plugin, or if you get the right keyboard or mouse, or if you use Blender or Maya, or like I don't know, like all this stuff that just doesn't really matter, that like somehow, or if you put stretch and squash frames everywhere, you know, like smear frames everywhere, your animation's going to look great, or like all that stuff. Like I feel like there was just a lot of that, and I kind of just wanted to just put all that aside and go, look, like here's my process. I'm kind of freestyling through this. I'm going to show you, and it's going to be imperfect, and that's okay, because a lot of it is about problem solving as well. So a lot can be learned from when things don't go right. So if I do something that goes wrong, and if I show how I fix that and turn it around into something that I actually want to do, that's super valuable, and you shouldn't be afraid of failing. And for me, that was the thing that made me feel most uncomfortable, is that I felt like at the start, I felt like, oh my God, if I fail in front of everybody. Everybody's watching me. Like it was kind of like a bit of an ego like pull of like, anybody can watch this and they'll see that like, if you think about the imposter syndrome, anybody can watch this and they're going to see that I'm a fraud, you know? And I'm just going to get hate comments, or like, oh, you're not that good, or like, what, I don't know, like, why don't you do this, or why don't you do that, or like whatever. That's what made me uncomfortable initially. But then I thought about why I was doing it, and like that stuff just doesn't matter, because I'm not doing anything special. Like I'm just showing a process of how I get from A to B. And I think that kind of transparency is just missing sometimes. And I think it's just really good and cool to show that, and that with no pressure, and just, you know, I'm trying to have fun and hoping that other people are learning something along the way. So yeah, those are kind of, I guess, to distill it down, the two reasons. One, I really need to make myself uncomfortable and show that animation is totally imperfect.
Yeah.
Two, kind of like accountability to do some personal work.
Yeah, that's really cool. I really like your streams. As you said, I really like that it's about the journey more than the end goal. There's Harvey Newman. I don't know if you know his channel about animation. He did recently a video about that, having, as you said, inspirational work, or idols, I'll say. Like, this super animator, he has 25 years in the business and it's doing awesome animation, but you know, it took him or her time to go there, and that's something you show with your streams, and I think that's really valuable. And I think it's important to be mentioned, it's free. It's free.
Yeah, that as well. I guess that was the other thing. I didn't want to have anything that had there was no paywall or barrier to entry. It's kind of like, I'm just putting this out there. Just go watch it if you want to. If you want to, that's fine. You know, ask me questions. Like I answer tons of questions while I'm working as well. And I just wanted something kind of just wholesome and totally transparent, and you know, just have a bit of fun on there. And it's great. Like I've really enjoyed it. You know, I have like a bunch of regular people that come and watch, and like, you know, we chat about stuff, and you know, like it's really cool. Like I really like doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I just hope. I mean, it seems that some people are getting things out of it, which is cool. I guess that's the point of it.
For sure. Can you maybe remind us what's your name on Twitch, your tag, where we can find you?
It's twitch.tv/CGmation.
Okay, so that's CGmation is your name.
Yeah, like my Twitter handle is the same.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I don't know, like.
Yeah, go check this out. It's really cool.
Yeah, if you want to watch me animate some stuff. I mean, so currently, I mean, if you watch this in the future, this won't be the case. But currently, I've been working on like I've been more transparent in kind of showing game process. So I've been working on like a 2D, like a side-scrolling platformer, and really showing more of like the engine side, not just the animation side. So that's something that I switched later on to make something that's a bit more unique. because again, I feel like a lot of people are doing like Mario animations, so that's what I started initially doing. Like did some like combat stuff, and I did like a dinosaur and some other things.
Yeah.
But now I've been like, okay, let's just do some game development for fun, and yeah, like that's interesting because that allows me to kind of open up the whole, like, I guess when I was talking before about the technical side and kind of show, it kind of allows me to show people who are interested in games animation like that it's a much broader skill set than just working in Maya. And you see that, and you see me create mistakes, and you see the character explode sometimes, and you see like all these things happen. But yeah, it's been fun, and I think it's something different that no one else really seems to be doing on Twitch. There's a lot of people that are animating, but not many people are doing like just
the
animation and game stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, come and check it out.
Awesome. That was the advertising moment.
Shameless plug. It's every Monday at 8 p.m. UK time. Live on Twitch. Usually I tweet it out. So if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see it there. Smooth.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I mean, I just have one final question for you. I think we covered quite a bunch of stuff already, and yeah, it's always the same question for everyone. It's, can you share with us an animation tip? And I know you just said that there's no secret recipe, but guess what? I guess that's why I ask everyone's unique animation tips. So hopefully you guys watching where's the camera here? You can mix, match those, and do whatever you want with them. So there you go.
Okay.
But it's a tough question.
That is cool. Like, I realized that I threw that like everyone wants an animation tip in there, knowing that you were going to ask that question at the end. Just kind of throw you some shade. No, I was kidding. I don't know. Let's see. It's not so much an animation tip, but I think the thing that helps most is thinking about why are you doing the thing that you're doing? Why, like, and what I mean is like, why are you animating the thing that you're animating? And does it do what it's supposed to do? I think it seemed like really simple, like high level questions, but a lot of the time when something kind of doesn't make sense, I feel like somebody, like the animator's not really thinking about why they're doing it, what the point of it is. So the message gets distorted or it's not clear. And I find myself coming back to that a lot whenever I sit down to do a task, or even a personal piece, like what is the point of what I'm doing? Like why? And if this can go back to the character, it can be like, so I guess if you think about the game, like why am I doing this for the game? It's like, all right, it's a game mechanic, it needs to do this. Like, so what does it need to communicate? So that's why we're doing it. And then why is the character doing it like this? Like, why wouldn't he do it this? Why wouldn't they do it this way? Or why wouldn't they do it this way? Like, you can start asking that question at like every point, and it's going to help kind of sharpen the focus of what it is that you're doing, and you should end up with like a better result if you've really thought about it. So yeah, it's just ask yourself why are you doing it? That's my animation tip, and hopefully it will make all your animations better.
That's a very good animation tip. I think that's one of the most important one to run. If you want to run a long career in animation, what's the first purpose of your animation in the context of the hero game, the project you're making? But also I think it's even higher level, but I do like to think why do you do that, like in terms of impact on people, on society, or because games have a huge impact on people. So I think it's important as animators to ask ourselves that.
I mean, yeah, that's even higher. Like, I would say, yeah, ask why, and also use hotkeys. Hide, use scripts and hotkeys. Hide all the stuff you don't need in Maya.
Yeah.
Make the software work for you. That'll be my next tip.
Yeah. If you go to Chris's Twitch, you'll see that his Maya is absolutely, I don't know how I can describe that. So pure.
It's clean and pure, and minimal. Yeah. Refreshing. Yeah, like that's that kind of something that I learned just this kind of, we talked about this a little bit like a while ago when, you know, I said something like, you know, I'm going to use 20 to 30 functions in Maya. Like I don't need anything else on screen. Like anything else is just taking up real estate of just animation screen space. So hide, you know, like don't need the view cube, I don't need the toolbox, I don't need like the menu, I don't even like need the file menu, like all that stuff. Just get rid of all of that, put everything you need, all the important things you have onto hotkeys. I use the marquee menu editor if I need anything else, and like, you know, I just have viewport, timeline, channel box. That's it. Don't need anything else. It's kind of like riding the bike for the first time, and you have like the stabilizers, you know, the two wheels at the back, and that the stabilizers are basically like all the menus around. And then you start getting rid of them one by one, and then you remove a wheel from one side, and then ultimately you can ride the bike without the stabilizers, and that's kind of how it feels when you get rid of all the UI in Maya.
Yeah. I can imagine. There are some people who play The Witcher 3 with the HUD everywhere, and some who just like no HUD, and that's Chris is no HUD.
Yeah, no HUD.
Cool, awesome. Well, thank you, Chris. I think that's it for the interview. Thank you so much for accepting to do that, especially on a Sunday. Really appreciate.
It's been fun to have a little chat.
Yeah. I guess it's already night in the UK.
Yeah, it's like 8 o'clock and it's dark. Well, it's gonna get dark here. Like we're reaching that point where it's winter, so it's gonna be dark at like 4 p.m.
Oh yeah.
And then it's gonna be dark when I get up in the morning.
Yeah.
We'll just have to power through it. It's always like that.
The sun just kind of peeks over the horizon and then it's gone again.
Yeah.
If it's not raining.
What do you want? It's the UK. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, don't forget to check out what Chris is doing on his Twitch, on his Twitter. I want to say also, so he has a animation program, of course. It's really good, so check that one out. I guess have a good night, a good evening. That's how you say it. And yeah.
You enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, exactly. Still have some sun hours left, so
I can see the sunshine in the background. And
yeah.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Chris, and yeah, have a good rest of the day.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Bye. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Cheers. Bye, guys.